Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining the workforce development programs for Northern Virginia companies. We're excited that you're joining us this morning. And I want to first note on this slide here that this is sponsored by not only Fairfax County Economic Development Authority, but our Northern Virginia Economic Development Alliance partners. So all of our peer jurisdictions across Northern Virginia. So know if you're here representing and participating this morning, from a company that is across Northern Virginia, we're talking to you, and there's the resourcing that's available here is across all of our jurisdictions. So thank you. My name is Mike Batt, and I am with Fairfax County Economic Development Authority, leading a talent program that's been out for about 3 years. And you're going to hear a lot of the resources that we provide as part of this talent programming, which is all about helping our companies retain, recruit more talent and upskill the talent that you have. So what I want to do is first and foremost just provide a few areas that help you understand what we're doing, and then we're going to turn over there and start a panel discussion with a number of resources to help you really thrive in our region. So what we're doing, just these are a few examples across the board with workforce development and helping our companies. We have number one here, a comprehensive website that really promotes all the career opportunities and upskilling opportunities across Northern Virginia. It's workinnorthernvirginia.com. And that site has every job that's available. All the jobs that you have publicly posted across Northern Virginia are on this site. And we're doing a lot to advertise that site nationally to bring more talent to the region so we don't poach from each other. Number two, we're organizing and hosting both virtual career fairs that we've been doing during the pandemic, but now going back into the hybrid model, and a lot of in-person career fairs at all different industry levels. We're engaging universities and colleges nationwide. We're working with Handshake, the application where we connect with universities nationwide to, again, say, come launch your careers here in Northern Virginia and across all of our jurisdictions. And while I'm talking on the education side there, we're also integrating in new opportunities for you to engage starting in the K through 12 area around career exploration and mentorships and internships. So if you're interested in those opportunities, we're working with organizations like Boys and Girls Club and one called Think Big for Kids, very focused with our K through 12 schools and in helping those underserved in our community. Up in number 4 in the top right, we have veteran programming to help engage our transitioning service members and military spouse. We're promoting Trailblazers. Those are great folks that are doing some amazing things here in the region and trying to film and promote what they're doing. And then lastly here, we're partnered with, and we have a number of them here on this panel today with some of our statewide employment groups. So really want to thank you again for joining us this morning. Now let me go ahead and bring on Karen Small. That is our moderator for today. She is our director for diversity, business investment, and entrepreneurship. And I will turn it over to you, Karen. So thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mike, for that warm welcome and introduction. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Workforce Development Programs for Northern Virginia Companies. As Mike mentioned, I am Karen Schmaw, and I will be your moderator today. We're very fortunate to have with us 5 guest speakers from various organizations who will share information I am certain will be of interest about their respective programs and how you can access as well as benefit from those initiatives. Workforce development today, more than ever before, means collaboration and conversation between business and industry, regional communities, government, academia, and training organizations. Joining me today for what is sure to be a lively conversation are workforce development experts and an entrepreneur who will provide tremendous insight into valuable workforce programs for which businesses in Northern Virginia can take advantage. This is an interactive webinar, and I invite the attendees to enter questions in the chat so that our professionals will be able to answer those during the course of this webinar. Before we launch into the program and introduce the speakers, I'd like to kick off the session by taking a poll to gauge the audience as it relates to workforce challenges. What are your workforce attraction and retention challenges? I invite everyone to participate in the poll by selecting options listed below. Lack of awareness of programs and initiatives, limited resources, lack of creative approach to talent, attraction, and retention, or all of the above. I'll give you a couple of minutes to complete the poll. We'll share the results on the other side. Very interesting. All right. So thank you very much for participating in that poll. It will be interesting to hear from our speakers regarding the results. Now, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Ed Trumbull, Anne Hyslop, Quiana Gainey, Crystal Thrower, and Michael Glasscock. Good morning and welcome. To kick things off, let's start by having you share a little information about yourselves and your respective organizations.
Okay.
And I'll start with you, Ed.
Thank you very much. My name's Ed Trumbull, and I'm the Vice President for Workforce Innovation at ICF. Delighted to be a panelist today. ICF is a global professional service company headquartered in Reston, Virginia, and I lead our workforce innovation practice from California to the United States Caribbean, and be delighted to share some of the initiatives and investments and benefits for Northern Virginia.
Thank you. Let's throw it over to Crystal. Crystal, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Thrower. My background is I actually work for Virginia Department of Labor and Industry and have been here for 16 years. I am a child of apprentices. My parents, I grew up across the street from the community college where they took their related instruction coursework that went along with their job. And my husband is actually an instructor and a master electrician. So we live and breathe registered apprenticeship at our house. So I'm delighted to share what we do here in Virginia with the companies that are here today.
Thank you, Crystal. We look forward to hearing more about apprenticeships. Next, we'll hear from Anne. Anne, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anne Hyslop, and I'm a project management professional with 25 years of experience managing nonprofit workforce and economic development programs and private sector emerging technology projects. I currently serve in a couple different roles. I'm a program director with SkillSource, aka Virginia CareerWorks Northern. I manage TANF employment grants and a small team. And I'm also co-managing director for Go Virginia Region 7 Council.
So Anne, you're representing a couple of organizations today, and we look forward to hearing more about all of those resources available to companies here in Northern Virginia. Next, we'll hear from Michael. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Small. First and foremost, I would like to thank Fairfax County EDA for putting this on and having me here today. My name is Michael Glasscock. I'm with the Virginia Values Veterans, or V3 program from the Virginia Department of Veterans Services. We certify employers as veteran and military family friendly hirers, and then work through a couple of state resources to connect those employers with veteran and military family job seekers of various types and stripes. I'm a veteran myself, 12 years in the Navy. In that 12 years, I have a cumulative 1 hour aboard a commissioned U.S. naval vessel, and it was docked at the time. Virginia native from Fredericksburg, where I currently live, with my wife, 4 kids, 2 dogs, a cat, 16 chickens, and 2 geese.
Wow.
Wow. First and foremost, Michael, thank you for your service and thank you for being here. We look forward to hearing all about the V3 program and other resources available through your agency. Lastly, we have our entrepreneur. You'll hear from her. Quiana, good morning, and thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for this amazing opportunity. I'm too a veteran like Michael, so thank you for your service as well. My name is Quiana Gainey. I am the CEO and founder of Secure Tech 360. We're headquartered here in Northern Virginia. I've been here about 11 years, but I am also a benefactor of most of these programs that you were here today as a small business owner. So I would like to bring a perspective of how these programs have worked with us as far as retaining, attracting, and maintaining talent, because we are a consultant with the federal, state, and local government. I, like Crystal, I am a champion for apprenticeship. I have 2 apprenticeships in my organization, one for everyone that's just interested and wants to get into cyber and tech, and one specifically created just for youth. We started a nonprofit about 5 years ago, and it's geared towards high school students that are looking to get into. So we went all the way back to even our high school students. So very, very passionate about this topic and very excited to be a part of this wonderful panel. Thank you for this amazing opportunity.
Absolutely.
Quiana, thank you so much for those comments. So panelists, thank you all for being here this morning. I'd like to take just a few minutes to discuss the poll. Were any of you surprised by the results?
Not at all.
Crystal, why do you say so?
Because everyone believes that we have to do things a particular way. And we have to break the mold of how we educate, hire, train, and bring people along in the business that you're doing. Whether it's through apprenticeship or grant funding or mentoring or how you build morale within your company, you have to be innovative now. Everything cannot be what it was when, I don't know, even when I started working here, 20 years ago, when I went and hit the job market, I'll say 25 years ago, I'm dating myself now. Okay, so when I graduated from George Mason and started working, it's very different than the people that are hiring. You're hiring my children, and they're very different from the workforce that you hired before. So, yeah.
Amazing insight. Does anyone else want to jump in and comment?
So,
Michael?
One of the poll results I noticed, the lowest score given was lack of creative recruiting and retention programs. I think that's reflective, and that's interesting because the Department of Veterans Services data shows that over 80% of private sector employers do not have veteran-specific recruiting and retention programs, which is one of the leading causes of both veteran employee turnover and veteran un- and underemployment. And speaking as a recently former job seeker from the veteran community, I can tell you that there is a broad and deep disconnect between civilian employers and veteran job seekers. Essentially creating only 2 paths for veteran job seekers. You can either become a cleared defense contractor or a cop, and those are really your only options. And if you're looking to go into anything else, a lot of those doors are closed by that communication gap. And that's one of the things that V3 works to correct and connect civilian employers and veteran job seekers.
Michael, that's an interesting statistic. 80% of companies don't have veteran-related initiatives?
Nothing specific to veteran recruiting and retention. And a lot of times when employers are looking to recruit and hire veterans, they're not employing their own veterans currently on staff as part of that recruiting and onboarding process. So you have people who don't speak military, looking at military resumes and conducting interviews with veteran job seekers.
Thank you for that. We look forward to hearing more about the V3 program. Does anyone else want to jump in about the poll? Because the results were quite fascinating. Ed, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing I'd like to share, kind of like a shared a little bit about my professional life, my volunteer life. I'm the chair of the Virginia Career Works Northern Region. So I get to work with Ann and David Hunn. And the Virginia Career Works Northern Region represents 2.1 million people. And so that's Northern Virginia, our colleagues in Alexandria, Arlington too. So there's kind of a more global perspective. And I'm going to what Michael is sharing, right now with our coming out of the pandemic, the number of open jobs is extraordinary.
Yes.
Right. The number of individuals unemployed and underemployed is there. There's not equilibrium. And so the other part is the labor market participation. That's the people, 16 to 55, 60. That's kind of, the primary workforce segment. It's actually that creativity, that number three, lack of a creative approach. So all employers, small, medium, large, for-profit, nonprofit, government, are actually having to use this as an opportunity to create a more diverse, equitable, inclusive, and accessible workforce. And so instead of it being a challenge, it's an opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that we often see ourselves as Northern Virginia as in it by ourselves, but this is a national challenge. But I think Karen, what you've pulled together today, and Mike, you've actually demonstrated the public-private partnership, nonprofit collaboration, because we all work with each other behind the scenes.
Yes.
And so we at ICF have two projects. One's a grant directly awarded to ICF. It's called Lead for IT. It's targeted towards employers to hire individuals. They could be changing their career. They could be coming out of school, college, university. It could be upgrading the skills of an incumbent workforce. That's number one. And number two is a project. This is a contract with the U.S. Department of Labor. It's called Cyber Youth Apprenticeship Initiative, CYAI. And here it's targeted to ladies and gentlemen 16 to 21 to become cybersecurity professionals in the gold standard of workforce development, which is registered apprenticeships. That's Crystal's program. So we'd be delighted to assist companies throughout Northern Virginia with Lead for IT, CYA, or both. But it's expanding opportunities for the non-traditional workforce.
Ed, thank you for that. We look forward to hearing more about Lead for IT and CYIA as we advance through this program. Quiana, I see you nodding your head and making comments, acknowledging and affirming what some of the panelists have said. Let's hear from you from an entrepreneur's perspective about the poll and the results.
I'm not shocked by the poll results. Being that I am a small business owner, I know sometimes even as a CEO, looking for resources is also another job or another task. But understanding, like in the current climate coming out of COVID, it did give us all, I feel like, a reset button to kind of go back to the drawing board and see what has worked, what's not working. And great programs like ICF, I'm a benefactor of both programs. It has definitely increased my workforce and being able to even retain some of my talent by getting that continual education. So we've used the incumbent worker training as well. We've used the Lead for It IT program. I have a youth apprenticeship program, and the CYA program has been amazing. Bridget and her team has been amazing. And that was all because I was a registered apprentice, or had 2 registered apprenticeships in Virginia, and Crystal made the introductions. And then I just recently got introduced to V3, so I'll be coming to you next, Mike. And then Ann, we've been working together with the Go Virginia grant. So the programs are there, and I can't stress it enough. If you're a small business owner and you're looking for ways to retain talent, to attract talent, the apprenticeship model works. 90% of my workforce is apprentice. We have a lot of folks that are that were teachers that came to me after the pandemic and said, I can't do this anymore. I want to do something different. And now they're working as Salesforce engineers on contracts after some training. And this is, success stories I can go on all day about. So, and then even for myself as being a veteran, putting programs together for my veterans was also something that was important to me, because once I separated from the military, my resume definitely was like a different language. And so being able to kind of even speak to some of those veterans to even see what those transferable skills were, a lot of them didn't even realize the things that they were doing as additional duties actually translated into careers. So having those resources available, having people like Roderick or even Karen give you opportunities to be able to increase your workforce. They're there. You just have to do your work and network and get out there, and it pays off in the end for you and your employees and even your overall organization.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments, and it's great to hear that you as a small business were actively engaged in taking advantage of all of these resources. Oftentimes, small businesses think that those programs are not for them. They think that they're for the large businesses. But as you indicated, you got out there, you networked, you identified the resources, you leveraged your contacts, and now you are ready to take advantage and or are taking advantage of all of these programs. And that is assisted with your growth of your company. So thank you for that. And I'm going to let you bring up the rear on commenting about the poll. You represent 3 organizations: CareerWorks, Skill Source Group, and Go Virginia. So from your perspective, were the poll results of any consequence to you? Were you surprised by what you heard? And you're on mute.
Sorry, like all of the other panelists, I was not surprised. The landscape has changed so much, as Quiana has mentioned. With regard to the lack of a creative approach, I was just reading this article the other day that Dr. Kress from Northern Virginia Community College was addressing Loudoun County School Board and others. I think it was a chamber event, and she was talking about this breaking the paper ceiling, which I had never heard of before, which is where employers are no longer requiring this 4-year degree piece of paper before they'll hire you. And so just all of the curriculum that Northern Virginia Community College is doing to react to this, new world order. And they've been doing that for a while, but she cited a major international company that required everyone to have a master's degree to get hired. And now they have 84 positions open that don't require that. At Go Virginia, we funded, we had a $2.4 million program with the Loudoun County Public Schools, where we funded this integrative computer science and computational thinking curriculum. So students start in kindergarten through high school. And we only funded 7 through 12, but these kids are coming out with able to get a high wage job out of high school. They're coming out with industry recognized credentials and internships that allowed them to put those certifications into use. So they're not just coming out with a bunch of piece of papers, but they're actually doing the internships to use the skills associated with their certification.
And thank you for that. And I've heard many of you mention in your comments, you talk about the creativity and innovation that's required to find solutions for employers, and your organizations bring that innovation and creativity to the table. So, Ed, how can an organization benefit from the programs that you mentioned, in particular, the Lead for IT? Can you give us some more information about that? Because it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit of context. When I started this business, my hair was similar color to Michael Glasscock's. And now it's Arctic white. I attribute it to our 3 teenage children, but that are now parents themselves. So at that time, like focus was on training people and then hoping they became employed. Over this period of time, so at ICF, we've been executing work-based learning projects since 2010 and really accelerated since 2018. And what we've learned is an employer-driven, community-based, outcomes-focused model. And so Lead for IT, we focus on small, medium, and large employers. We're agnostic on employer size. Public, we're not able to assist government, but nonprofits and for-profits. And the employer, the eligibility is pretty expansive. It's low, it's unemployed and underemployed individuals. And so the employer identifies the individual. The employer actually goes under contract to ICF, so it's B2B. And then the employer, we create a training program, and it might be on-the-job training, might be these are reimbursements to employers for a portion of their expenses, summer internships, paid summer internships, on-the-job training, incumbent worker training, registered apprenticeships. So it's driven by the demands of the employer. The employer identifies the individual that has the grit, tenacity, perseverance. Notice I didn't say education or work history. And then the employer onboards the individual, executes the training, and then they submit their invoice to ICF. We review, approve it, and we actually deposit the funds electronically back in their bank account. And so we've learned a lot, from these various work-based learning projects, but we have grown to an employer-driven model. And we're doing that, as I shared, from like California to the United States Virgin Islands and in between.
That is amazing. And I suspect that a lot of, how do you get the word out? How do companies find out about this initiative, and how can they partner with you?
Events like this, and so we would, I think our email addresses will be shared. Delighted to have a deeper discussion with interested employers, for-profit, nonprofit employers. Our colleague at Secure Tech 360 we are working in close collaboration. And my colleague, Bridget Brown, says, "You are a rock star." And so, it's like, really, this is the dynamics of the collaboration. And it's, the word team, together each achieves more, team. So by us working together, all parties achieve more. The employer achieves more, the individual worker trainee achieves more, the public sector investor achieves more. It's better for our community, it's better for our families. So it's kind of an evolution in our thought and our execution.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ed. Crystal, you talked about your expertise lies with the apprenticeship programs, just to name a few. And apprenticeships have certainly changed over the years. The perspective is that apprenticeships are associated with the trades largely. Can you share with the audience, and for those that may not be familiar with that concept, what apprenticeship is, and share a little bit more information about your programs and how they work?
Yes. So registered apprenticeship is we at the Department of Labor Division of Registered Apprenticeship, we oversee the registered apprenticeships that are throughout the state of Virginia at our local entity, but we do answer to the regulations of the Federal Department of Labor when it comes to registered apprenticeship. Registered apprenticeship is pairing together on-the-job training, learning from an employer, and you have classroom time that goes along with it. Now, programs could be 1 to 4 years In some cases, if a trade union is involved, it could be a 5-year program. But the courses that are taken have to have 144 hours of related technical instruction that is related to the work that you do every day. And that is approximately 10 credit hours from a university or a community college. Those courses could be taught in-house by the employer. If companies have employer training within their business that they utilize, all of that counts as our related technical instruction. So if it's an association or things like that, online learning, all of those count in that. Now, the reason we've evolved is gone from being blue collar jobs from blue collar, gray, and then there's the wonderful professional services that we can apprentice. There are 1,400 occupations that are apprenticeable across the United States. We have about 300 that are registered in the Commonwealth and building upon that list because more businesses are opening their doors to our concept with the help of ICF and other organizations like them who have receive funding from the federal government to help companies build registered apprenticeships, specifically in IT. The concept of an IT apprenticeship did not click well in Northern Virginia right away. I'm gonna just say it, that I tried to talk to everybody that I could probably 10 years ago when I will say Governor McCullough gave out funding to our office to bring IT apprenticeships to the Commonwealth, but people weren't there yet. As people we've grown, we've integrated into IT, accounting, all types of professional services because they are asking for people to have all this. They want the education and they want the experience, but you can't get that at college. You don't get that at college. And every student is not receiving an internship in their major to build out what they know. I know because I have college students. At our house, you can be an apprentice, military, or a college student. So, and then we've evolved apprenticeship to include our young people who are taking courses at the career and technical centers. Every school system has career and technical education. As Ann shared, they built concepts in Loudoun County. Every school system in Northern Virginia has IT classes. They come out with certifications, but they're not being employed by the local companies who have all these opportunities available because they're not sure if they can do the work. Well, they can do the work, and Quiana's one of those who's done it. I call the 7 luckiest kids in America. I talk about them constantly, but it's only taking a mentor and putting it with put that person with that mentee. They're training them, and they take the certification classes they need to do the job. And if they've taken college classes that are supposed to make the knowledge applicable in the workplace, it's the same thing everyone has been doing for years. They're bringing in a college student and they're putting them with their best employee and having them mentor them. So that is all apprenticeship is in a nutshell. You're just documenting it and putting it on paper. Now, the great thing about what we're doing here in the Commonwealth right now, we have the CRAFT grant, which is the Commonwealth of Virginia Registered Apprenticeship Future Talent Grant. It's for industries that are in healthcare, IT, manufacturing, agriculture, state and local municipalities, logistics, and even hospitality. And hospitality got hit really hard during COVID. And people are going from one job to the next, trying to figure out their niche. It all works in that space. But even if you're not in those industries, we can help you with funding for veterans, people of color, people with differing abilities, people who have barriers to employees, and the people that I am challenged with making sure they have employment and getting work-based learning, high quality work-based learning, our youth in our high schools. So every high school student that is not on an advanced track to receive their diploma must have high quality work-based learning to graduate. So please understand, you're here today, but every high school around the Beltway is going to be contacting you because they have thousands of high school students, juniors and seniors, that have to have some version of work-based learning, and you can put it in an apprenticeship, and I can give you $3,000 per student right now. And then you can partner it with Ed's money at ICF, which I'm wonderful, gladly to say that Miss Gainey has done. She has partnered all these services together to receive funding so she can keep helping other youth participate in this. So that's how we've evolved. I know I gave a little more than what you wanted, but I just wanted to make sure I hit all these things, because it's not just what my parents did when I was a kid. It's not what my husband does every day. It's everybody walking to an office, even in government agencies. So I work at the Department of Labor. Every OSHA person is an apprentice. Every consultant that comes out that does registered apprenticeship, they have gone through this process. And anyone that does health services out of our department, they actually have been apprentices. We practice what we preach here to make sure we understand how the model works, to provide it to you. So the consumer. And it's free of charge. Your tax dollars pay for it.
Thank you for sharing that information. So 1,400 apprenticeship areas nationwide and 300 here in the Commonwealth. What a tremendous opportunity that so many businesses can take advantage of. So thank you for sharing that. We'll circle back with you a little later to learn more about apprenticeships. So I'd like to toss this question to Michael. Michael, the Commonwealth is one of those states that has a large population of active duty military as well as veterans. Can you talk about the V3 program and your agency, Department of Veteran Services, and how you support companies?
I can. Excellent timing, because my Fairfax County provided kava lunch just arrived. So I'll put that to the side for a second. Yes. So V3, as I mentioned earlier, serves to address some of the fundamental drivers behind veteran and military family on and underemployment. First and foremost, that communication gap I mentioned. We provide a 1-hour virtual webinar on the benefits and best practices for recruiting, hiring, retaining, and upskilling veteran and military family job seekers. That 1-hour webinar is the one and only requirement for full V3 certification. It is completely free. Like Ms. Thrower's services, your taxpayer dollars are already paying for this. So if you're not taking advantage of it, you're paying for it anyway. And then once an employer is certified, thank you very much, Ms. Small. I'll go into the process here in just a second, but once an employer is certified, we have a number of resources at the state level that we can leverage to connect them to job seekers. We have a newsletter that goes out to over 9,000 registered veterans and military family job seekers. We have a sister program called V3 Transition, or V3T. They work directly with transitioning service members 24 months before and 24 months after they leave active duty service. They work with with those transitioning service members on all aspects of transition, one of which is employment. So they help those veterans create and tweak resumes, mock interviews, that kind of thing, and they can provide direct referrals of those transitioning service members to V3 certified employers. So we also offer a suite of temporary positions, one of which is our Skill Bridge program, which provides a transitioning service member for 6 to 8 weeks to an employer in a temporary position. They can then hire them on if they'd like. They don't have to. We, of course, would love to see them do so, but it's not a requirement. The benefit there is because they're a transitioning service member, they're still on DoD payroll. So the employer does not have to pay them. They're still getting active duty pay. We also offer OJT and apprenticeship programs that are a little bit longer. I think they go out to 5 years. Those are employer paid, but there's GI Bill money that can be leveraged to offset that employer cost. And the big get everybody loves, we offer a grant from the state of Virginia. So Ed can pay you, Ms. Thrower can pay you, and then I can pay you. We provide $1,000 to any certified employer with 300 or less employees for every veteran they hire and retain for up to a year. And it can be applied retroactively. So when an employer gets certified, the day their certification is processed, they can apply for that grant for any veterans that have been working for them for at least a year. There are a couple of provisions on there, but that's something anybody is interested in. They're more than welcome to reach out to me and I can sort of walk them through it. So the certification process, super easy. ICF and SecureTech 360 are both certified employers, so they can co-sign everything I'm about to say. It is a 2-step process. One is to go to the link that Ms. Small just put in the chat, fill out our easy peasy online enrollment form. Take you 2 minutes. Everybody go do it right now. Once you do that, you have to go through one of our trainings. They're 1 hour online. You don't even have to turn your camera on. We discuss the veteran on an underemployment problem, the spouse on an underemployment problem, some ways to address that, how employers can help veterans and military family members, how they can understand what those communication barriers are a little bit more, and some best practices for designing and implementing those veteran-specific recruiting initiatives that I mentioned that only 20% of civilian employers maintain. So you go through your 1 hour training, easy peasy. We start the certification process on our end. Previously, we had an employer submit a cover letter. We've done away with that. So all you have to do is go through the training, automatic certification process gets started. It takes about a month because we have to get the governor's signature on your physical certificate, and we've got to pin him down in a room and make him sign things instead of going and governing. Then you get your Gold certificate in the mail. And actually, before you ever get it in the mail, as soon as your program manager, that's me for Northern Virginia, we also have Central, Southeast, and Southwest. As soon as your program manager gets word that your certificate has gone to the governor's office, we reach out with links and POCs to those resources. So I always tell people I'm basically a concierge for the Department of Veterans Services. I point people in the direction they need to go once they've got their certification. It's a terrific program. I'm really thrilled to be a part of it. I can say even after 20 years of 2 wars and plenty of veterans out there, there really still is that fundamental communication gap. Speaking from personal experience, when I left active duty service and was leaving the intelligence community, I had a 15-year deep professional resume. I had a bachelor's degree and it was about halfway through a master's. And it is, without exaggeration, I was turned down to be the daily operations manager at a fast casual food restaurant whose name I won't mention. I was turned down to be a business-to-business sales manager at a trucking company because they didn't understand how my military experience could translate to that. So the problem is still very real. It is still very impactful. And I encourage everyone here to go get enrolled and certified, not just because it'll make me look good to my bosses, but because it's the right thing to do. And it is a strong and beneficial business decision. I'm going to eat now.
Thank you for sharing that information. And, you know, it was a great thing that you did not get those 2 jobs that you mentioned, because you landed right where you need to be. I will share that I tuned in yesterday to your workshop, and it was amazing. I learned quite a bit about the veteran community. And I do encourage all of our attendees listening in today, if you are not V3 certified, to pursue this particular program and initiative. As Michael mentioned, the link has been dropped into the chat, so you can get more information about the initiative by clicking on the link that's been placed in the chat. And companies should look at V3 as a badge of honor to support the amazing talent and workforce, i.e. veterans. So Michael, again, thank you for sharing that information. So I'd like to transition and talk to Anne about some of the programs that your organizations offer. More specifically, let's talk a little bit about CareerWorks and how they're structured and the resources available through CareerWorks. And then we'll talk about on the back end, Go Virginia.
Okay, great. So Virginia CareerWorks Northern serves as the local workforce development area. We're number 11 in the state of Virginia, and it serves as the board for the Northern Virginia region. So through this, we administer workforce activities and services, and we have 5 career center locations where job seekers can use our facilities for free. And get a lot of services that way, take classes, get their interview prep, resume review, what have you. And we can also, for the employers, host job fairs and recruiting events, and there's meeting space if they want to do interviews. The Virginia CareerWorks Northern serves Fairfax County, Loudoun, Prince William, and the cities of Fairfax, Falls Church, Manassas Park. Basically, we're not Arlington and Alexandria. We're everywhere else in Northern Virginia, but those 2 places. So we reach tens of thousands of job seekers every year and hundreds of employers throughout the region. So some of the services that we offer to employers is, again, on-site recruitment and placement assistance for employers. We have on-the-job training subsidies, similar to what Michael has spoken about. We've also have an incumbent worker training program, where this is if you need your employees to be upskilled so that they can either keep their job or get a promotion or a job a wage increase. And so if you're a small company, then we can say if you're 50 employees or less, we'll fund up to 90% of the training fee. If you're over 50 to 100, we cover 20, we pay 75%. And if it's over 100, then it's 50%. So we do a lot of trainings for incumbent worker training. We do a lot of trainings in the IT, healthcare, construction, and trades, basically. And some of the frequently requested trainings are CDL, Python programming, AWS, Certified Ethical Hacker. And then for longer programs, it could be journeyman electrician, like the final year, or a BS in nursing programs. That's our incumbent worker training. And then there's rapid response services and transitional work experience program. Those are some of what we offer for employers. Do you want me to go into Go Virginia?
Yes, please
Okay.
share that information as well.
Okay, so the other hat that I wear is Go Virginia, and Go Virginia is basically an economic development initiative. Its goal is to facilitate innovative private, public regional collaboration to grow and diversify the economy through projects that lead to high wage jobs. So we do not give grant funding directly to individual businesses. Go Virginia is all about collaboration and partnership between private industry and either local government, higher education, or nonprofit partners. Basically, it was created during the protracted recovery after the 2009 recession. Virginia just wasn't recovering as quickly as the neighboring states, and part of that was due to sequestration. But it's really, it's to reduce our dependence on the federal government for jobs and kind of boost that private sector innovation. So with Go Virginia, we fund projects in 9 target sectors, and that's computer science, cybersecurity, consulting services, financial services, engineering, life sciences, research organizations, emerging technologies. And our geographic boundary is very similar to Virginia CareerWorks Northern, although we also include Arlington and Alexandria in our footprint. So what I do with Go Virginia is I co-lead operations of the Region 7 Council. So Go Virginia, the state is carved into 9 regions. We're Region 7, and there's a board of about 25 members, business leaders, government officials, private sector. And I also help to cultivate a pipeline of prospective applicants and assist those applicants through the labyrinth of Go Virginia process. The bigger grants can take 3 to 4 months to get the funding. You have to go through an approval process locally with our regional council and then go to the state board in Richmond to get the final approval and funding. And then I manage or project manage the projects once they get awarded, myself and my colleague. So we've awarded about $10 million in grants since we started in 2020, since Susan Baker, my colleague, and I started in 2020. So if I talk about how we help businesses, how does Go Virginia help businesses? I would just say, if you have an innovative idea in one of our 9 target sectors, let's discuss if it's a good fit for Go Virginia and how through partnerships and collaboration, again, with higher education, local government, and or nonprofit to make your project viable. We love to hear new ideas. We're excited about innovation and technology, and hopefully we can help you get across the finish line. Some of the projects, it's just some quick highlighted projects that we funded. This one was called Community MediCorp. It was a grant to George Mason and George Washington University and high schools in this region, and it's a mobile life sciences lab. So it can go. So for students in a life wanted to pursue a career in health sciences, they can take courses, and this lab will travel from school to school. It's much cheaper than building a lab in every single high school, and so it travels around Northern Virginia. TechSet. This was one of the Marymount initiative where they develop work-ready social and technical. They provide a work-ready social and technical skills training to help economically disadvantaged juniors and seniors in college, because we hear so much from employers that when they, even coming out of college, students don't have the social skills, they don't know how to maybe behave in the work site, and some just very basic fundamental things that we took for granted coming out of college. anyway, Northern Virginia Bioscience Center, we're really trying to, that's a sector, life sciences is a sector we're really trying to boost in Northern Virginia to kind of, because so many of these companies, they get started and then they don't have a place to go as their next step as they grow as an organization in life sciences, and then they go to Maryland. So we're trying to keep them here. Prince William County has developed this whole campus. And so we funded what is called a wet lab. Actually, we just did the equipment in the wet lab is where they can develop vaccines and other medications in the life sciences area. So that's just a few. So the best way to contact us is to go to our website, which is gonorthernva.com. And you can just say, hey, just there's a place for you to fill something out, and we'll get an email and be in touch with you.
And thank you so much for that. I do have a quick question. Is this a one-time opportunity with Go Virginia, or can a company take advantage of this program on an ongoing basis or come back with multiple projects until the funding runs out? How does that work?
Good question. Since we have the highest population in Region 7 for Go Virginia, we get the most amount of funding every year. Every year we get an allocation of approximately $5 million. And we haven't always used it all each year as this program has been getting off the ground. So, but yes, organizations can come back for multiple funding rounds, but it's, organizations like George Mason University have come back for multiple funding rounds. Smaller organizations and nonprofits, not as much, but that's not to say they couldn't.
Okay. And can you repeat that link again that you mentioned, or put it in the chat?
Sure, I'll put it in the chat. It's gonorthernva.com.
Thank you so much for that. I'd like to hear from our entrepreneur, Quiana Gainey, about how you've taken advantage of some of these programs. And as we are approaching the formal Q&A, I'd like to encourage our viewers to continue putting the questions in the Q&A section. We've gotten some great questions. I look forward to hearing our panelists answer them. And again, I encourage you to enter your questions in the Q&A box. All right, Quiana, so can you tell us a little bit about just your experience as an entrepreneur? You've been, again, affirming a lot of these programs that our panelists and program managers and directors have talked about today. But why should a small business invest in apprenticeship?
Great question, Karen, and thank you guys all for being here today and really talking about these programs. I find myself being an ambassador of them because I have been it has definitely improved a lot of the programs that we bootstrapped in the beginning when we first got started. So a lot of the funding that we used in the beginning was from the consulting work that we were doing in the community, because we just really saw there was more of a need for workforce development, apprenticeships, skills bridge, and just getting the underserved populations into jobs that they didn't even think was possible for them. So just being a part of that and seeing a 360 approach to some of the participants that have stayed along with us and are helping us build these programs. So now they're mentors, and now they're partners, or now they're, believe in the benefits of having workforce development programs such as apprenticeship. So we started with just we wanted to have an apprenticeship for our company. And we got introduced to Ms. Crystal, and she started talking more about some of the benefits of having it, and then even looking more towards the youth. So we were really before just looking at 16 to 24 and just thinking about veterans and women. And then we started expanding, thinking about the high school students and the youth of tomorrow and the next generation. And we have, even in COVID, we were still doing virtual programming just to keep the education going for our students. And even during COVID, we built a whole sustainable community in Arlington, Virginia, which is a research and development lab for our students to come in and to be able to participate in those trainings. We do everything from career fairs to all type of mentoring events. We have a lot of partners in the space. So outside of us being an IT consultant and cyber consultant in the space, we also have had relationships with even larger organizations that are trying to get to that population that, as we're seeing now, we all have to be a little more diverse in our hiring strategies and also retaining talent, right? It's very competitive, especially in the IT cyberspace, but training your own workforce is just something about being a part of that transformation, being a part of that continuous education, and watching even some of our employees start off thinking, okay, I'm just going to do Salesforce, and then they get AWS certification, and they get the cyber certifications, and they're just pursuing and going up and up in their careers. And then they're coming back, because it's a part of being a part of our programs, you have to give back. It's a personal mission for myself, even just being on active duty military and transitioning out. That was a big component of my service, was service. So it benefits us as a community as a whole when we have trained professionals, and it doesn't always have to be, I have a professional degree, but I also have the certification, so I understand both sides of the coin. So it doesn't take place for having people with degrees, but it's also just being able to, increase that pipeline and create jobs for people that necessarily don't look like you or necessarily will have those opportunities presented to them. So, and it can also just be other professionals that have started off somewhere. We had a lot of people that just got COVID burnout and wanted to do a different career change, and being able to have those programs and even having those additional support programs to be able to give things like wages to the apprentice. Because a lot of them have barriers. They don't have money for transportation. They don't have different things, and they shouldn't be left out the conversation because they have limitations. So these programs have been wonderful in being able to expand our capacity and our reach. Last year, I think during COVID, we had about 10 students. This year, we have 20 to 25. So it's increasing. It's getting out there, and word of mouth is spreading. So there is benefits to that. And I would tell you, as an employer, take the processes. They don't take a lot. There are just a couple of application items, and these great program managers will walk you through. They will hold your hand. They will help you. They will assist you, and then they will also introduce you to other folks that are there to help you. So I believe that Northern Virginia has done a wonderful job in supporting small businesses like myself and even larger businesses, but take advantage of them. It doesn't take a lot of your time, and it will just be worth so much in the long run.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you're leveraging all of these great resources. So we're now going to move into the Q&A, and I am going to just read some of these questions that we've received from our audience. And anyone feel free to just kind of step in and answer the questions. So the first question, what is the first step for a small business to enroll in your programs? Is there one enrollment, or do we enroll with each organization?
I can start. So one of the things there are, to register with the registered apprenticeship program, it's 4 pieces of paper. One, that you acknowledge the registration, that you acknowledge the regulations, I should say, of apprenticeship, state and federal. A form where you're giving us mentor information, who's the main point of contact, how many mentors you have, what the program will be, and just outlining what the pay scale is. Because in apprenticeship, if it's a more than each apprentice must get a pay scale throughout the process, a change in pay throughout the process. And finally, you register the apprentice. And then once you do the registration for us, we actually, if you're an IT company, we take you to ICF and like-minded people like them. If you are hiring a veteran, once you're registered as an apprenticeship program with our office, if you've registered a veteran, we actually take all the paperwork you sent us and email it over through a secure email system to Veteran Services, where they will contact the company and contact the apprentice to figure out how they will do the process with you. Then you go through that 1 hour class that Mike was talking about. The interesting thing, if you're looking for employees for an apprenticeship program, we have what is called our employer solutions team, which brings a lot of the services to one table. So Ann and I have been at many meetings together where we all collaborate, the whole Northern Virginia team. There's the super group that includes Arlington, Alexandria, but then there's the Virginia Career Works Northern group, and that includes Department of Rehabilitative Service, Apprenticeship. They're actually having their meeting now. Ann and I had to skip it. And they bring employers into the circle, and you tell us what you need, and we help you find the people that you need. So we all collectively work together. So that was, and things like that. So.
All right, thank you, Crystal. And just to answer the question, all of these programs, while they work collaboratively, they are sponsored by individual organizations. So in order to enroll in them, you would need to approach each of these different organizations separately. And contact information will be made available following the event. And also, yes, Ed.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why is because the funding is different for each project.
Yeah.
Like, so Ann's funding is from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Michael's funding is veterans targeted. Crystal's funding is likely from a state apprenticeship expansion grant from the U.S. Department of Labor. Our funding is actually from, it's called a One Workforce Grant, H-1B funding. So our job to work with Quiana is actually to conquer the complexities of the funding so we benefit the employer. So our job is to work together, that veteran transitioning from the military to the civilian world, for a short period of time, they are considered unemployed. And so that actually triggers the various funding that benefits the employer, and it benefits the veteran, benefits the individual. So our job is to conquer those complexities. But unfortunately, you do need to register with the individual programs because of the individual federal funding, likely.
But the past, the past governor made it where it's simplistic for the three of us, and Michael and I, that if you have registration forms from my office, you can get approved as a training provider for Ann's office. And you get Michael's form and you fill out the top, and then you say that you're an apprenticeship sponsor, and then you go through an automatic approval process for both. So that's why it's they made it where it's not so complex for you, but you do have to contact everybody, and we try to put it all in one email to work together.
Thank you, Crystal. This one's for Michael. Michael, is there a similar veteran program in Maryland for Maryland employers?
Thank you. As a lifelong Virginia native, it is with a great deal of pride and no small amount of spite that I say, no, there is not. There is no program like V3 in any other state in America. Texas has a similar program, but it's not as good. That being said, we can have, and will continue to certify employers outside the state of Virginia. Because we are a Virginia state initiative, we do primarily focus on Virginia employers. However, we do certify employers across the country. The only difference is if you are an out-of-state employer, I will not be your regional program manager. That falls to Ms. Megan Labuglio, who is our Southwestern Virginia and out-of-state employer. And the reason for that is that there are over 900 V3 certified employers just in Northern Virginia alone. And you are looking at the sum total of the Northern Virginia Regional Program Managers. So I already have many cats to herd.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Another question. Are all of these programs in Arlington and Alexandria? Yes, they are. In the programs that we talked about are throughout the Commonwealth, and many of the representatives here today are your direct points of contact for those programs. Let's see. I have two businesses, hospitality and youth sports and education. Does any of these organizations work with my industry? Absolutely, absolutely. Again, a lot of these programs are industry agnostic. They work with all. There is no specific industry tied to most of these programs. And at the conclusion of this event, we will certainly follow up with an email providing you with links to a number of the programs that were shared with you today and answer any of the questions that we were unable to get to. Let's
Ms.
see.
Small, Ms. Small,
Yes,
if I may interject for a moment, I know we're starting to run up against time, but that most recent question about the two businesses,
Mhm.
yes, V3 is industry agnostic. I did want to put out, if anybody here is interested in registering, certifying two separate employers, you can do that with V3. You would need to submit an enrollment application for each separate business and register each separate business for our core curriculum webinar. But we can operate with a sole point of contact.
Okay, thank you for that, Michael. In our final few minutes, I want to thank everyone who has taken time out of their morning to be with us today. It was a great conversation, and I hope that you were able to garner a great deal of information to assist you with your workforce challenges. Thank you so much, Ed, Anne, Crystal, Michael, and Quiana. What a dynamic conversation. Thank you to our audience for being here. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, Nova Economic Development Alliance, Department of Labor and Industry, Secure Tech 360, Virginia Values Veterans, ICF, and Go Virginia. Before we sign off, I want to make you aware of an upcoming event. Actually, it's scheduled for next Thursday, October 27th, Exporting 101. Registration can be found via the Economic Development website, and there's also a link in the chat that has been introduced. You can access the registration there. Thank you once again for your participation in this event. For more information about the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority, visit fairfaxcountyeda.org. On behalf of FCEDA President and CEO Victor Hoskins and all of my FCEDA colleagues, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, stay safe, and be well.